Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my future card Buddyfight Dragon Knight Dragon World deck profile for post-Buddy Ragnarok. Continuing on with the Buddyfight decks that I feel haven't gotten enough of an update in the realm of deck profiles on YouTube. I wanted to update the Dragon Knight deck. This deck actually did get support in one of the latest sets in future card Buddyfight, and that was Beyond the Ages, getting a bunch of new Dragon Knights along with the Buddy Ragnarok release. We got the El Quixote Revival Buddy that you see here. I really do love this art. It's got Naboru on it along with El Quixote. So big thanks to my buddy Nick for letting me borrow his Dragon Knights for the deck profile. And as always, still taking requests on any other decks you feel haven't really seen much of an update in relevance to the latest support they've had on YouTube. And I'll definitely look into doing deck profiles on those as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. So for our buddy for the deck running Dragon World, our buddy is none other than Dragon Knight, Don Quixote, or El Quixote Revival Buddy. It's a really, really awesome card that helps with just the overall play style of your Dragon Knight. So along with it being our buddy, we are also running 4 copies of the card in the deck. With this card, if you would call a Dragon Knight, the gauge cost written in its call cost is reduced by 1. And Assault of Glory, when this card attacks and destroys your opponent's monster or deals damage to your opponent, look at 2 cards on the top of your deck, put 1 from among them into your hand and the rest into your gauge. And if you have an item equipped, this card's attack cannot be nullified and its damage cannot be reduced when attacking alone. So you have a pretty good card to hit against your opponent. It does have some weak attack stats, but you have other ways to make up for it in the sheer numbers with the other Dragon Knights you run, and with your initial setup, and with your item being your Imperial Cavalry Dragon Atlas Hyperion. So with that play and some of our other Dragon Knights, I'm also running 4 of the Shinsen Commander Kondo. You pay 1 gauge and put the top 2 cards of your deck into its soul. It's a size 1 monster, so pretty good for the actual protection setup. And at the start of the attack phase, if there are more different Dragon Knight monsters on your field, you draw a card. And then during the turn, all Dragon Knights on your field get plus 10,000 power, defense plus 10,000, and critical plus 1, and double attack. This is the skill I mentioned that helps with your El Quixote, just increasing in power, and also being able to reduce the gauge costs when you already have El Quixote on the field with this card makes it all the better. And its additional counter skill with Shinsengumi War Flag, you may pay 1 life. If you do, call up to 1 Dragon Knight monster from your hand or drop zone to another area by paying its call cost, and you can only use this once per turn. But it also has Soul Guard and counterattack, making for an excellent monster to put in the center, since it'll be at 17,000 defense and 17,000 attack. It can hit for some pretty good counterattack options against your opponent, depending on what they swing with against it. And I also run 4 of the Shinsengumi Chief Commander, Yamanami. With this card, abilities of all Dragon Knights on your field cannot be nullified by your opponent's cards. When this card enters the field, if another Shinsengumi is on your field, put the top card of your deck into your gauge and draw 1 card. So the Shinsengumi name definitely does come up with all the new Dragon Knights that we have from Beyond the Ages. And when this card attacks, if there are more different Dragon Knights on the field, you drop 1 of your opponent's gauge and deal 1 damage to them, taking away their resources with the 3 or more different Dragon Knights on the field. So you can easily set up your board with the 3 that I've mentioned already here, and then just dwindle away your opponent's resources when this card attacks. Another one of the Shinsengumis that I run are 4 of the Shinsengumi Oni Vice Commander, Hijikata. You pay 1 gauge, put the top card of your deck into its soul. All Dragon Knights on your field cannot be destroyed or returned to the hand by your opponent's monster or opponent's card effects. And when this card enters the field, you put up to 1 card with your Miki in its name, or Mibu, sorry about that, from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck. So with the option, and then if a monster with Kondo on its name is on your field, all Dragon Knights on your field get penetrate and they cannot be rested by your opponent's cards. And it also has Soul Guard. So the option for your Kondo comes up with your Shinsengumi Commander Kondo for that play. Also being able to rely on that additional backup with Hijikata is a big plus in the deck. With one of the other Dragon Knights that I run in the deck, ideally I do want to run 3, but I have 2 of the Crevice of Dream and Reality just as a placeholder for this card, and that is Cavalry Dragon Recuperate. With this card, you choose a Dragon Knight or Knight monster other than Cavalry Dragon Rokinate on your field, and you may pay 1 gauge. If you do, put this card from your hand or field into the chosen card's soul. And if this card's in the soul of a Dragonite or Knight, that card gets critical +1 and Soul Guard. Just another way to bump up some of the pressure against your opponent when you have Kondo on the field, because then along with Kondo's own power boost, this card just adds more of that pressure altogether by allowing more of the Soul Guard option, but also being placed into the soul for that additional power. And then also for more of the pressure, just running 1 of the Omnilord, the Void Omnilord, as the Revival Buddy option. It is an Omnilord, so you can run 1 Omnilord per deck. Remember that. It's just additional pressure being a size 2, and when a monster in your opponent's field is destroyed, deal damage to your opponent equal to the size of the destroyed monster. It's a little added backup for some resources to use by paying 1 gauge to put the top card of your deck into its soul. If you didn't want to run this card, you can always put in a 4th copy of Cavalry Dragon for this option, but it's just a player preference of my buddy Nick's. That's why he's running the 1. And for the item in the deck being a Dragon Knight deck, we are running 4 of the Imperial Cavalry Dragon Atlas Hyperion. Its equip cost is putting 2 Dragonites from your drop zone into its soul and paying 1 gauge and 1 life. This card can attack even if a Dragonite is on your center. And when this card attacks and destroys your opponent's monster and deals damage to your opponent, put the top card of your deck in your gauge, gain 1 life, and draw a card. Here's your resources. It has Penetrate, Double Attack, and Soul Guard. And with it having 8,000 power and 3 critical, it can definitely swing pretty hard against your opponent, while also making up for some of those resources of the lost Dragonites you may have had on the field because of it. It makes up for all of that play power because of its usage and its skills. So that's why I like running 4 of it, so you always have the option to see this card in your hand to use. And I also run 4 of the From the Well, Look to the Skies. You pay 1 gauge and 1 life. Stand all Dragonites on your field. Then for this turn, all Dragonites on your field can also attack during the final phase. You may only cast From the Skies, From the Well, Look up to the Skies once per turn. So this is just an added option for you to then re-attack again with your Dragonites on the field for the additional pressure. You definitely want to run 4 of this card with the gauge cost reduced thanks to your El Quixote on the field. You'll have enough of those resources and enough made up with other cards like your Hyperion to then use this card to its fullest for every final phase to have additional attacks. And then along with the added option from Blue Sky, I am also running 4 Training of Wolf of Mibu. You counter and choose and use one of the following. 3, you can have and put a Dragon Knight monster from your drop zone into your hand. You can put the top card of your deck into your gauge for each Dragonite monster in your field and also gain 1 life for each one. Or you can choose a Dragonite on your field, and this turn, during the battle attacks alone, your opponent cannot use counter. So just an added option, especially for the win condition against your opponent. You can just swing for game with a good number of your different Dragonites against your opponent. So this is definitely another 4 just being a recycle option for a lot of your different cards, or just being that clinch to win against your opponents. And for more search power from the Beyond the Ages set, so it's a little more easily available, for Nothing Will Stop Us. You may only cast this card if you have attacked 3 or more times during this turn, and link attacks count as 1 attack. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, call up to 1 monster from among them by paying its call cost, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. It is a Thunder Empire card, but it is a Dragon World card, so you can easily make use of it in this deck because of such. So with that search power, you can just search out more and more Dragonites to then play and call out to the field. And I also run 2 Wolf of Mibu. You choose a Shinsen in battle, and for that battle, give it plus power 5,000 and defense plus 5,000 counterattack. And with the counterattack option, it has more destruction as it would with Kondo on the field. But the search power for the setup for Mibu comes in handy when you put up to 1 card Mibu from your deck into your hand, searching out the card thanks to cards like Hijikata. For some additional generic spells in the deck, I do want to run 3 Rivals Forever. It's more setup for cards in the drop zone to make use of, but it is a pretty pricey card, so if you don't have it, you can always run the Recover Veil. And then along with the added option, 3 of the Ball Thunder High Guard, another shield to run in the deck, just having an open center for defense against your opponent to stop a good amount of their attacks. And for more of the spell protection, the 2 Grace of the Sun Deity. This will stop your opponent from targeting or giving you effect damage by also being able to use this to utilize protection of one of your monsters on the field. And then lastly, the 4 of the Dragon Cavalry Arts, the Glorious Legacy. You may only cast this card if you have 5 or more Dragonites in your drop zone. You pay 2 gauge and draw 3 cards. So it is an impact, so you do have to use it during the final phase. Remember that. I do have the 1 of the Deity Lance Chaos Tempest Buster as a placeholder, but you definitely do want to run 4 of this card. The draw power definitely does come in handy to get resources back into your hand for you to utilize with all your different Dragonites that you will go through in the deck as well. So remember that, very, very important for that setup, but a great impact to use, along with being able to use the 1 spell that I mentioned for being able to then set up an attack during your final phase with Frog from the Well looks up to the blue sky. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Once again, thanks to my buddy Nick for letting me borrow the deck for the video. And as always, taking more requests on other Buddyfight decks you may like to see in the future on the channel as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.